I spent the last 6 years journaling, using it as a tool to organize my thoughts, find clarity, focus, and also align my actions toward creating the life I really want. And in this video, I will be breaking down the why, the what, and the how to help you get the most out of journaling and also turn it into a habit that works for you in the long term. Let's start with why, because if we don't know why we are doing something, why do we do it in the first place? Self-discovery. By journaling, we can build a strong self-awareness, understanding our values and the things we enjoy, gaining clarity. So for example, when we feel overwhelmed, journaling can help us sort our thoughts by putting them down and getting them out of our head. Big picture alignment. It can also serve us as a reminder for the goals and the focus we have each day. Through daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly reflections, we can then realign and track our progress over time. A record of experiences. Writing down the things each day lets our future self stack back into our thoughts and experiences of the past. Improved mental health and happiness. It's also shown that writing down our thoughts and reflecting on the things we are thankful for, we can improve our mental health and also increase the level of happiness we feel each day. But at the end, journaling is not something we have to do a certain way, but rather something we can develop over time by trying out different things and then finding what works best for us in our different life situations. There are many different formats we can use for journaling, and whilst it can make sense to start with one to get going and don't get overwhelmed, I would suggest experimenting also with others later on, because this way we can then develop our own style that works best for us. When doing prompt journaling, we ask ourselves questions to explore a specific area of our life in more detail. And things we could be asking, for example, are: what are the activities that gave me energy the past week? When do I feel most at peace and content? If I knew I could not fail, what would I do? Do I still grow personally or professionally with the things I'm doing? And you also can find online, by searching for journaling prompts, many more you can then use to explore specific areas. If you want to do one thing every day that increases our mood and happiness, it's having a gratitude journal. Listing out 3 to 5 things we are grateful for, even if it might be rather small things, because it refocuses us on the present and seeing what is. I also often like to combine this with thinking actively about things I wanted in the past that I now have, and it really increases the value of the things we already have. When we do free writing, we just put onto the page whatever comes up in our minds, and this often also helps us with bringing clarity to whatever we are currently processing, and then also giving us a chance to ask follow-up questions later on without forgetting about the things we thought about. Next to that, it also helps us to reduce the mental load we often feel if everything is just in our heads. Then I often combine this with asking why as a follow-up question on the things I've written down, and then thereby uncovering underlying problems that I could then fix. And by this, we're going from fixing the symptoms to fixing the root causes. With bullet journaling, we combine different elements like having a to-do list, a diary, and a planner all in our journal, and then customizing it to our preferences over time. I myself started out with bullet journaling by learning out about it in the book The Bullet Journaling Method, and then I also added later on a gratitude session and using here and there some prompts, which at the end created my own system then over time. Making the most of your journal entries. Writing consistently in a journal already can do wonders to our mental health and happiness. By just listing out these 3 to 5 things every day we are grateful for, we can lift our moods. However, by only doing that, we are missing out on one of the biggest benefits, which is making connections and then seeing patterns over time. And therefore, taking the time to not only reflect on your day, but also your week, your month, your year, can be a great tool to make connections, see patterns in your behavior, and even discover things you seem to enjoy but never explicitly stated that you would. And getting this insight can be huge because it helps us then adjust our life in a way that is more aligned with what we truly value. I myself discovered, for example, that I seem to enjoy programming a lot, although my belief had been that this wasn't something for me and that I wouldn't be good at it. But as I learned programming, and although it was frustrating and hard in times, I nevertheless often wrote that I felt great energy once I were able to solve a problem. And this led to me then to double down my efforts to become good at it. And although I'm not actively now programming anymore, it laid the foundation for the career I now have. You never know where something can lead you, but following your curiosity and then recognizing those patterns through reflections can be a great way to really uncover the things you enjoy and go towards things you never thought you would be going towards. But the question now is, how do we do reviews? One way of doing reviews is by just going through all the entries in a specific time frame, depending on the type of review you're making, and then highlighting what sticks out to you. For example, for weekly, you would go through all the entries of that week. Maybe you even take a look at the previous week's review to activate a kind of a background process that notices when you read for your current week, if you have noted something similar the weeks prior. And another way of doing reviews is asking ourselves a specific question and then trying to find an answer for it in our entries. For example, we could be asking, what were the things that frustrated me in the past week? And then, depending on the amount of entries, we might be able to find multiple things where one comes up more than once, giving us a direction where we might want to make certain adjustments. But no matter what type of review method we use, the great thing is that any insight we gain are based on our own experience, which is just invaluable information, because that's the best way to create a life we truly enjoy through experiencing many different things and thereby then learning more about ourselves and the things we value. Because as it turns out, many of the things we thought we enjoy and that would bring us happiness ultimately didn't. It were the things we never thought of. Building a journaling habit. As with any habit, the best way to start is to align it with activities we are already doing every day. For example, when we are reading every day before we go to bed, we could either start our reading session 10 minutes earlier or shorten our reading session a bit and then do our journaling. And this way, we use the momentum of another habit we already built and do every day, and then just add something to it. Also, we shouldn't beat ourselves up when we miss a day or two or even a week. The most important thing is that if we stop, that we come back, if it was valuable to us in the past. But also here, it's something we need to experiment with and figure out the best way it works for ourselves. At the moment, I, for example, don't have a strict habit of writing in my journal every day at a specific time. I'm rather writing when I'm doing a walk outside or sitting in a park, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed. I will just pull out my journal and then start writing. And next to using the momentum we already have with active habits, starting small always helps. We don't want to overthink it. Even if that means you just use the default notes app on your phone and start there, writing out 3 things you are grateful for today. Tools for effective journaling. So the first question is it physical or digital? Because at the end, there are great benefits for both. Whilst I love having a pen and writing on physical paper, I also love having the optionality to pick out my journal at random times of the day, often not being at home, and start writing. And whilst this is possible with a physical book, it's not the best, as you have to carry it with you everywhere. And next to that, when everything is digital, I can easily copy and paste things when I, for example, do reviews. And I can also more easily search for specific terms and then find all the entries easily when using a digital version over a physical one. But of course, going through the pages in the physical just feels nicer. At the end, I decided a few years ago, after starting out my journaling journey with a physical notebook, to switch completely to digital. After following a kind of a hybrid model where I was using both a physical and a digital version. So the physical when I was at home and the digital when I was outside. But using both kind of created a mess, and so I decided to stick just with the digital one. When it comes to physical notebooks, I always bought the ones from Leuchtturm with dotted pages. They are not that cheap, but they have a good quality and I enjoyed using them a lot but I also need to say that I didn't do a crazy amount of research on what the best one is. I just took one that looked good to me and then I was happy with it. When it comes to the digital world, I also tried different options, from the native Apple Notes app to Notability, which enabled me to write on my iPhone while also being able to draw and do handwriting on my iPad with the Apple Pencil. But at the end I stuck with the app called Day One, and it has a really great design, it's simple, and it also has this really nice feature where it highlights for you the entries from a particular day across different years, which can be a nice way then to drive back the things you were thinking about 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago on this specific day. And yeah, it syncs with Mac, and they also now have a web version. So it's really easy to then write digitally in different places depending on where you are. But yeah, it really comes down to the preferences and what works best for you. For the beginning, I would just say pick the easiest one, so the tool doesn't become a blocker for starting with journaling. Because as it's often when we want to start with something, we start to invent things we need to avoid getting started. And when you're now getting started with journaling, I also made a video about an exercise I did a few years ago to explore my why and thereby living with more clarity and purpose. So if you're interested, you can check it out right here. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, hit the like button, and remember, keep growing, keep striving, and I see you in the next one. Peace.